Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia, and I read a surprising number of books during June. As many of you know, and you are going to be tired of me saying, I wrote my book in June. I wrote my manuscript from start to finish, essentially, in June, and I decided not to really pick up ebooks, and I ended up picking up quite a few. Yes, I did get it done, but I also read a few books, and we're gonna talk about them because I'm excited. It was such a weird reading month because I was writing. It just, you listen to the combination of these books. It makes no sense, but let's do it. The first book I finished was an audiobook, and this was For a Deadly Inside Scoop. This is a cozy mystery, the first book in a cozy mystery series, I should say. I haven't read that many cozy mysteries, but I am interested in them. I'm interested in them in the same way I'm interested in like everything, anything that I hadn't tried before, and I think this might have been like my first real cozy mystery. I did read Finley Donovan is Killing It, and the sequel, it's not a genre I pick up a lot, and I did enjoy it. I give it 3 stars. This is about an ice cream shop owner who comes upon his dead body in the snow and kind of gets wrapped up in the investigation, and it was like exactly what you would think. Like, it did exactly what I thought, and it was like fun and interesting and fast to read, and that's why I gave it 3 stars. I think I honestly would continue with this series, and I think that's what cozy mysteries are to me. I don't think they're ever gonna be like very groundbreaking, you know, these stories about these like normal people stumbling into like mysteries and crimes. I don't think that's gonna be like my thing, and I don't think there's that many ways you spin it, especially with series and stuff like that, because these are often cozy mysteries are often in series. So I enjoyed my time reading it. I definitely think I would read more of the cozy mystery genre for just a fun, quick mystery, but yeah. Alrighty, now we're getting into the books that I read while I was away. I went to Vancouver to pack up all my shit and to bring it back here, and I got a lot of reading done while I was there, especially on like planes and stuff. And I ended up finishing this book. Like, I don't even want to, I was gonna say it doesn't deserve a introduction, but it doesn't need an introduction. I finally finished this book. I finished this on the plane. I did not bring this through airport security. Thank you so much for asking. I read the last, I don't know how much I had of this, maybe 100 pages. I read it on my iPad, so I just like, much better than lugging this around, let me tell you. Yeah, I did a whole video on my reading experience of this because I actually started this book 3 years ago, and yes, it has taken me that long to finish it. It was a whole time. I ended up giving it like 3 stars. It's really not much. Like, it's nothing special, and I think that was my main problem with it, is that it was like hyped up and supposed to be like this crazy awesome fantasy, and I was just like, it's okay, like it's definitely too long. It was okay. I don't know if I would read more Samantha Shannon. I don't know if I really cared to own this anymore. This is so dumb, but I'm counting all of these as individual books on Goodreads because I did read them. So don't you even at me. I read, I hate me. I hate me so much. I might even own these books, but I don't know where they are. I read all 7 of the Rainbow Magic Petal Fairy books. I want to do a video about these books. It's somehow incorporating them because they were my childhood, let me just tell you that. And I had not touched a single one of these. I picked the petal ones just because my library had them. They had like the whole collection as one. These books are so like ingrained in my childhood, and I really wanted to see what they were like as an adult. And let me just tell you, like, they do the same thing in every book. And it's kind of awesome. Like, I mean, they follow this beautiful formula that has worked over 200 times. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't know. I'm kind of shocked that they're still making these books, but also like I love it for freaking the writers. If you didn't know, it's written under a pseudonym. I think it's Daisy Meadows. There's a few different writer collaborators that work on them, and like honestly, I would love their job like so much. Like, I just imagine sitting at your desk and you're like, all right, what are their names? Stacy? Like, all right, what are Rachel and Christy gonna get up to today? And what are the goblins gonna ruin? It's like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. And the amount of like fairies they have, I just like, I can't. Anyways, these were really fun. I didn't rate them, but I did thoroughly enjoy my time reading them. I loved the writing. I think it's like so fun and simple. It's done very well for a children's book, and it's a good balance of writing and illustrations, I think. I think it was really funny. Like, I still laugh, and I just think they're so darn cute. Like, I definitely would give these to my children if I ever have them, because I just think they're adorable, and I think, you know, they're about friendship and fun times. So they're fun. I might read more. Who knows? So I was on the plane. I was only reading my iPad, so I did also read Snot Girl Volume 3. I don't know if they're doing more volumes, but I really hope so, because this mystery is constantly confusing. I honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I don't even remember how this ended because it's so weird. But like, I keep wanting to read it because I'm so interested to see what happens. This is about a influencer, like a fashion blogger, which I think is so funny because I don't even know if fashion bloggers are a real thing anymore. It's about a fashion blogger named Snot Girl. She has a real name, I just can't remember it, and her like fake squad of friends. And then she meets this one girl who's also a fashion blogger, but she's not fake, and she's very cool and pretty, and we love her. And then she like dies kind of, but then she like comes back. It's all very, very strange. So yes. Every volume has just left me with more questions than answers, and I kind of love that for me, but also like I don't know if there are more volumes. I feel like when I don't know what to rate things, I just give it 3 stars. Yeah, I guess my main issue is like not that nothing's happening, but that so much is happening that we're not getting enough answers. I had a good time reading it on the plane, but yeah, I just don't know where we're going. And I would like to know. Another book I read while I was is Stranger Planet. This is the sequel kind of to Strange Planet. This is a kind of graphic novel. It's like a series of comics about these little alien guys just explaining life things and just how freaking funny and how silly humanity is. And I really like this. I don't know if I liked it as much as the first one. I think I gave the first one 4 stars, but it is definitely like really wholesome at times and obviously really funny. I showed some to my dad and he was like, I was like, this is you. This is you. I don't know what you're doing. I think it was like playing Jeopardy or something. Yeah, I don't know really where it's gonna go. Like, I don't know if, I know it's like a comic that is continuously posted on, I want to say the illustrator / writers, some social media, but I don't know if there's like necessarily a point to be made. So I think it's fun, like it's fun to look at and it's like they're cute comics, but I don't know if it goes past that. Next up, I read The Island by Adrian McKinty. This is the author of Chain, which I read last year or the year before and really liked. I actually got this book as an ARC. I enjoyed this one so much. I actually talked about it in my mid-year book freakout tag because it was such a surprise to me. I had no idea what this book was going into it. I knew it was about an island and I didn't really know if it was about an island, especially when I started it. I started it and I immediately thought it was like a staircase retelling, which is a true crime case. It was a documentary and then now it's a dramatization like show. And it's essentially about this guy who pushed his wife down the staircase but got away with it for a decent amount of time. And because our main male character did that and they're like, nah, she fell, and it's like, no, she didn't. So that's like the tea, that's the underlying kind of thing, backstory going on. And he has 2 kids and he has a new wife who's like much younger, and they're all on a vacation to Australia, and they decide to take this kind of like detour a little bit to this island, and it's only inhabited by this one family. And now when the main character's family accidentally harms a member of the island's family, the people on the island are out for blood. This book is so crazy. It had me on the edge of my plane seats the whole time. I don't know what it is about this book. It was so exhilarating and so horrible because like nothing that was going on is good. There's so many layers to it, I think, because there is also this like family drama, and it's a really odd family dynamic. Obviously I have like the dad who's like, what the fuck is going on with him, and the children are really interesting. Every character I think is really well fleshed out, and they're obviously trying to survive being kind of hunted. It's so good. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I really like survival stories. I'm trying to think of other ones that I've read. I feel like I have and I just like can't remember it because I don't read enough thrillers, but this is like the type of thriller that I really enjoy. I think it was so well paced, meaning that it was really fast paced, and I was flipping, like I couldn't flip the page fast enough. It's such a wild ride. Like if you want to like read that I wrote like on Goodreads, it was crazy and I think it was so well done. There's a lot of like humanity to it, I think, in some ways. There's lots of like human mistakes that are made, and like I said, the characters are really well done, and I think that's like a really strong point. It was really good. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It already like has not a movie deal, a TV deal, I guess, a series deal with Hulu, and I'm really excited to see this adapted. I can so like clearly picture it, and I really hope that they do a good job. I think a lot of people will enjoy it, so hopefully that goes well. Then I read A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. This is a story about 2 sisters, one who is a siren and one who doesn't really know what she is. They are not actually sisters, but they have kind of been through it all together to some extent. In this world, sirens are pretty much feared to the point of hatred. Isn't that the root of all hatred? Fear. They are, you know, hated and demonized. They are persecuted in very disturbing ways, and it's kind of like something that if you're a siren, like, don't tell anyone. It has to be the secret kind of underground system. There's some other kind of magical creatures in the book, but that was kind of a weak point in the novel for me. I really didn't understand the interworkings of the other kind of magical beings and, you know, the rules of those sorts of things. I think the best things about this book are the social commentary. It is a very overt and direct commentary on the Black Lives Matter movement, and especially about the treatment of young Black women, as they are I believe the only people in this world who can be sirens, so obviously they are the ones experiencing the most abuse. I also think that the sister and also the family relationships in here were great and well developed. I really like a strong relationship at the core of a story, whether that's a sibling relationship or a friendship or a romantic relationship. Either way, I think that that's like a really great bond to have at the center of your story, and so the sister relationship really did that for me. I also have some complex family dynamics, which comes into play later with the plot, but I didn't exactly love how that was dealt with, but I did enjoy the execution of just the mother figure and the father figures and those sorts of things. But like I said, there were some issues that I had with the magic. There are some other types of like creatures like gargoyles and this like serpenty thing. Gorgonzola? Hello. Organs and sprites, and like I just really didn't get a clear picture in my head of where these magical creatures had a place in this world. Yeah, I didn't really get any of that, because you really do get a clear depiction of this is how sirens are treated, which I think was done really well. But I really didn't understand how the other ones come into play in society, whether or not they're demonized, whether they're allowed to be kind of known to have certain abilities, and what those abilities are. And there's like this interconnection between certain other creatures and sirens that I really didn't understand. That was just unfortunate to me, because that ends up being a bigger part in like the latter half of the book. I'm not going to spoil it at all, and unfortunately because that wasn't really well developed, I couldn't really get a good grip on the ending of this book. It was just kind of weird. I don't know if I was that satisfied with the end. I think maybe because it is such a short book, there wasn't a good way to develop those other aspects. But yeah, unfortunately that was kind of lacking for me. It was about 3.5 out of 5 stars. Liked the things that I liked, but the kind of magical world is kind of where everything fell apart for me. These next two books I have such a hard time writing, but like especially this one. I finished Tenders of the Flesh. What even the fuck? This is a short horror about a guy named Marcos, and he lives in this world that's like the very near future world where animals have gone diseased. And so humans are now eating other humans, and they're breeding other humans, and they're just treating them like livestock, this like population of humans. They call them head. Our main character Marcos, he works at one of the like facilities that they kind of like do a lot of things, like processing plant. I think they call it the plant. And his whole reasoning is like, he's like, I like have to be in this society, at least like let me not have to like directly involve himself with things, but he also needs money because it's like the highest paying job. He's also dealing with the grief and loss of his son, his baby son. And I think that's a really interesting parallel to the consumption of cannibalism. One of my favorite things about this book is how it was written. I really enjoyed it. I don't think this would be everyone's cup of tea, but I found myself really enjoying the writing style. And I mean, shout out to the writer and the translator for this one. Like, here's the first paragraph. Let me just read it for you, okay? Carcass, cut in half, stunner, slaughter line, spray wash. These words appear in his head and strike him, destroy him. But they're not just words. They're the blood, the dense smell, the automation, the absence of thought. They burst in on the night, catch him off guard. When he wakes, his body is covered in a film of sweat because he knows that what awaits is another day of slaughtering humans. Like, I just love the kind of like choppy sentences, and I think that the way that the author kind of dehumanizes certain characters is very like dejected from everything and from the situation. I think that's very accurate to the main character, because he is kind of trying to separate himself from what's going on around him. You know, every chapter essentially starts with like, he does this, he goes here, he does this. And like, it's a very interesting style of book. As for the plot, like, what's your resolution for a book about cannibalism in a world where people suck? The plot is like not even really what interested me. I did really think our main character was strong, and whatever. To me, this could have been like just a slice of life kind of book, meaning that like it didn't have to have like a plot for it to still be impactful and for it to still get its point across. And the ending, just like, what? The ending, I read it twice. Yeah, I read the last couple of paragraphs a few times because I was like, did I miss something? If you've read this book, please can we talk about it, because I honestly am like, did I miss something? What is going on? But I think this book is fantastic. I really do. I don't know if it would be that squeamish, but like, it's definitely like weird. I don't know. There's a lot that I enjoyed about this book, and I had an enjoyable time reading it, and it made me think a lot, especially the ending. This book does a great job with using like symbolism and with creating this kind of dystopian world that seems like it could fucking happen. Like, when I first heard about this book, I was like, well, if all the animals are diseased, why isn't everyone vegan? Because everyone's shitty. Because everyone wants to make a profit. And it's like, but is it also like, is it a government conspiracy? And like, there's the other angle of that. Are people just telling you these lies so that you will kill people and reduce overpopulation? Like, there's so many good questions that arise from this book. I'm giving it 4 stars. Maybe I should give it 5. I don't know. I just feel like the ending is like what I can't make it a 5-star because I just don't get it, and maybe I'm dumb. I don't see how that would happen. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I understand how it's a full circle moment, but I also don't. If you want to be traumatized, read it. Last book I read this month is, hit you over the face with it, it's Stephen King's On Writing. This is the 20th anniversary edition. Yes, it is. This is Stephen King's memoir slash like guide to write, how to write, I don't know. This part, this first part, first 118-ish pages are the memoir, and then the rest is, with the exception of like the interviews that have been added, is about the craft of writing. I've said before, I haven't really read a lot of Stephen King. The only full book I've read of his is The Body, and this one. I am like halfway through it, and I've been for a few years. But I do think there is something to be said about writers that are prolific as Stephen King. And I think for me, I really interested in like his memoir portion a lot more than I would have thought. It was interesting to hear about his upbringing and just how he's been writing. He's like been at it always. It's very interesting. And the craft portions I've read, I realize I've only read like one chunk of it, and maybe I've read it in a couple classes, and that's why I remember. I did find a couple of like interesting new things about writing. I mean, he even says in his book, like, if you're trying to be a writer and you're just reading about writing, like that's not really how you're gonna do it. But I really did find this interesting. I'm very glad that I read it after I finished my first draft of my novel. I'm having a hard time speaking, I'm so sorry. Wouldn't have necessarily changed a lot, but there are some things that he talks about, some, you know, guidance in his way of like things you should avoid in your writing, and kind of like overuse of adverbs as one example. And I think that maybe if I was reading this while I was writing, I would be like very hesitant to do that, and I do tend to overwrite, but it's not really, I've never really thought of it as pushing a narrative onto people, but just because I love detail. But I think he states a really important opinion about letting the imagination of the reader take over to some extent, and having that be a part of your job as the writer. And I'm not going to go into every single point that he makes, but I did find that there were some really interesting things, and I do generally like Stephen King's writing style, especially like in this format. I enjoy how he speaks, and he's very literal and direct and to the point, like very no bullshit about anything. So I like that, because, you know, some things you read about writing are just kind of pretentious and annoying, and I think he's just like, you know what, like, you're doing your fucking best, and like the bullshitters can leave. And that's all. I think I give this 4 stars. I don't know anything else that I would change exactly about this book. It's exactly what it is. And I do think that I might go back and look at this when I'm revising and things like that. I think that it has a lot of good tips. I don't think you have to like Stephen King necessarily to read this, but I guess you have to be able to tolerate him in a lot of way of tone of voice, I guess. I don't know. I'm actually losing my voice, which is kind of quirky considering I talk to no one all day most days. But I hope you enjoyed this video, this wrap up. If you did not read a freaking Rainbow Magic book this year, go read one. Let me know how many books you guys got through in June. I'm hoping to get through a ton more in July, speeding through all of the TBRs. But anyways, with that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!